Hi, back in 2013, June to be precise, I had this solar array installed, 3 kilowatt solar power system on my home roof here. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in down below. It's the installation of it and going through all the various technical aspects of it. I've got how many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 LG Mono X panels for a total system of 3 kilowatts here, a total nominal power output of 3 kilowatts anyway. So it's been running for not quite 2 years now, but you know, a good 18 months. So a lot of people have been asking, can I get the data from this and see how it's performed over that time and comment on that. So yeah, let's do it. Let's take a look at some of the figures I've gotten out of this thing, because I have been logging all the data that comes out of it, and see if this thing has been worthwhile or not. Let's go. And for those wondering, no, I haven't cleaned this system at all well, since it's been installed. So of course, when you get dirt on these things and you know, little bird droppings and all sorts of crap like that, it can reduce the output efficiency. But look, this has never ever been cleaned. Yeah, it's got some dirt on it, but yeah, it's hard to get an actual benchmark figure of whether or not the dirt has made a difference, but not really. I think they've been fairly self-cleaning in that respect anyways. And things like the DC isolator box here, which I haven't touched since installed. I think I'd have to check my previous footage, but I think it was a pretty white box when they installed it, so maybe it's turned yellow, maybe some bromide in the plastic. The roof penetrator here, for example, that's still in really good nick. Looks like no deterioration of the rubber or anything like that. So the system seems to have held up quite nicely in terms of maintenance. I mean, it has, as I said, been absolutely zero maintenance over all this time, and you can might be able to see some dirt on there. I can't see it on the screen, but yeah, I've had no issues. So the installation was all fine, and these LG Mono X panels, no issue. They are top of the line panels, of course. I paid a lot extra for these LG Mono X ones, not just you know, some cheap ass no name ones. And of course, I paid a lot extra for this Sunny Boy inverter as well. Once again, top of the line. It's the SB3000 TL. It's got the Bluetooth interface, and that's what I've been logging the data from on this thing. And you can actually see the isolators here. Yeah, I think that's the original color of that isolator box. So I do have auto white balance on this thing, but yeah, trust me, that other one is very yellow, so it's had sunlight on it. This one is on the shady side of the house, and it's basically covered by a big tree here. This system, the inverter, does not get any sunlight. That's one of the things. You don't want to install one of these things in direct sun, which is why they actually went to the effort to mount it right on this side of the house. This is on the other side of the house, so there's some loss in the very long cable runs which have to come from the solar panels, which are on the other side of the house here. But anyway, let's have a look at our total power output. They're basically very overcast at the moment. We're only generating 160 watts. It's bugger all. It's 4:30 in the afternoon here, and sun's starting to go down, but usually it'd be still generating a lot more than that. You can see that today we've generated 10.6 kilowatt hours for a system total. This thing has not been reset at all since it was installed, so the total power we've output from our solar panels over however long we've been doing it, 18 months, is 7.396 megawatt hours. Beauty. So you can see the curve for today, how it ramped up like that, and it's just really dropped off. It was sunny before, but now it's overcast, and if I tap on this, oh, there we go, there's the backlight. I should have turned that on before, but I can give it a double tap. It's got a little tap sensor in there. This is now the output per day. So this is 20 kilowatt hours like that, and you can see every day it's sort of, you know, depends on how sunny it is really, and cloud and solar insolation as well on the whole thing. But that's just some data output over the last a week or two. And here's my meter box here. You can see my old meter, which they disconnected when they installed this thing, and they installed 2 new meters here. And Yeah, and there we go. We've got one here and one there. This top one here is basically, that is how much I have consumed. And it's almost 6.7 megawatt hours over all this time period. I'll get the exact number of days soon when we do some calculations. But, ta-da! You can see that just from a warm, fuzzy point of view, this 3 kilowatt solar power system has generated more energy. You remember it was almost 7.4 megawatt hours, and we've used 6.7 megawatt hours. So we've basically generated about 0.7 megawatt hours or 700 kilowatt hours more than the power we've consumed the last 18 months or whatever it is. Brilliant. So right there, it's a win. A 3 kilowatt system is good enough for a family of my size and a house like this running all your regular stuff, including air conditioning and things like that. And this meter down here, this one shows how much energy we've exported to the grid, because we've got what's called a net metering system here. And what that means is that I only get paid for the energy on this meter here. This is the one that I've exported out to the grid, so I haven't used. I've got no battery storage system here, so I can only use the power while it's being generated. So the difference in that is the amount of energy that we've used, and it's about a third or thereabouts I've used. So I've used about a third of that 7.4 megawatt hours I've actually used in the house. 2/3 of it has been exported. And unfortunately, this net metering system is nowhere near as good a payback as the old system where you used to get paid for all of the energy that you actually produce. So I only get paid for the stuff I export, and I get an extremely low rate, only 8 cents per kilowatt hour. It is piss poor. So right there, get your calculator out, you can figure out how much I've earned. It's not much. Now, having only used a third of the power that we've generated is not really surprising. It's basically what we expected, because we're not always here during the day, of course, but with a young family, yes, we're are here a lot of hours during the day, more than your average family, where both parents work, both kids go to school, and there's basically no one here. Yeah, we do some stuff, and we changed our habits as well. Our washing machine and our dishwasher, for example, we'd put those on during the day instead of like overnight we used to do before. So now, so those sort of appliances would only use energy during the day here. So often, I'd come out here and watch it, and we're not sometimes we were exporting very little, and it was full sun and everything. You can see the number of impressions here. This LED will flash, it'll give 800 impressions per kilowatt hour. So you can see it slowly flash or it turn over here. So we did sort of arrange our habits a bit in that respect, so we'd use more of the solar panel power, because basically we're buying electricity. I'll show you the rates later. We're buying it at a much higher rate than what we're exporting it. So it's basically use it or lose it pretty much, because we don't get paid much for all this energy that we've exported. So if we had some other power stuff that was going during the day and we could use all that energy, then it'd be much more beneficial. But hey, we're actually using more power than your typical family would from their solar system. So yeah, we're doing pretty good in that respect. So it's no real surprise that most people use most of the energy in their house at night, because, well, of course, you get home from work, the kids get home from school, your lights go on, your TVs go on, your computers go on, you start cooking dinner. Yes, we do have an electric cooktop. We do have gas here, but we've only got gas for the hot water and the barbecue out the back. We don't have gas cooking. So the electric cooktop goes on, all that sort of jazz. So yeah, things that we could do during the day we did, like the dishwasher and the washing machine, for example. We rarely use a dryer. We're here in Australia, we've got a Hills hoist in the backyard, got a clothesline, so yeah, everything dries naturally. So, but still, lights, TV, computers, all that sort of jazz, cooking all goes on at night, and you're just chewing 2/3 of your power. And in my case, that's exactly what it turned out to be, pretty close to it. But unfortunately, we've got the net metering system here, which means we get paid like 1/3 of what we get charged for. So measured on this meter, we're getting like, 24 cents per kilowatt hour or something. Down here, we're getting like 1/3 of that. Ugh, bastards. If we had a storage system here, battery storage, to capture that energy during the day, then hey, we could be actually completely grid independent here if we wanted to, although you'd still connect to the grid, just for the emergency. You wouldn't rely completely on your battery system unless you're out in a rural property. It just wouldn't make sense. So if we had a battery storage system here, technically we wouldn't pay a cent for our electricity. Apart from the maintenance costs of the battery system, of course, and the amortization of the installation of the solar powered system as well. But hey, as I said, we've had no maintenance issues whatsoever. Never had to go up on the roof, do anything at all. So it's been super reliable. It's been a couple of years, not a bad test so far. And yes, we do have fairly energy efficient lighting here. We used to have all compact fluorescent stuff here in the house, but we switched over to all LED lighting in the house. So that may have lowered our lighting budget and things like that, but didn't seem to make a huge amount of difference because we're already running fairly efficient compact fluoros, no incandescence or anything like that here. And we do actually have 2 split system air conditioners here, but we don't often use it. The house has thermal insulation in the walls. This is not double brick, by the way. It's only single brick, but there is insulation between the brick and the gyprock inside, and we've got insulation in the roofs. Fairly well insulated house, so we don't often have to turn on the aircon, or if we do, there's not a big central air conditioning system, so just cool down the little bit we want and then we switch it off. We're not one of those families who just run them 24/7 with some bloody climate controlled temperature thing. A lot of people around this area do that, believe me. So I'll just quickly explain the difference between the net metering and the gross metering concept for those who still don't get it yet, because it is a bit confusing. As I said, I've got the net metering system, which is what is displayed here. So I've got 2 different meters. The top one there calculates the energy that I've used, and the bottom one there calculates the excess energy, which I haven't used during the day while the sun is shining, so it gets exported to the grid. Now, if I was home all day, I wouldn't be exporting much. In fact, if I was generating 3 kilowatts, for example, and I was using 2 kilowatts in the house, then I wouldn't be exporting anything. So I wouldn't be earning any money for that energy exported, but I wouldn't be paying for any of the electricity coming from the grid, i.e. that top meter, that 24 cents per kilowatt hour that I'm being charged to buy energy from the grid. Now, in my case here in Sydney, Australia, I'm only earning 8 cents per kilowatt hour for the energy I export, or 1/3 of what I have to buy it for from the grid. It is an absolutely ridiculous system, but hey, that's how it works here in our state. So with a net metering system, if you were getting charged at the same rate as you were using the power, then, well, that's okay. You wouldn't have to really be home during the day to make use of that energy, but because my state here has got a ridiculous law where I only earn 8 cents per kilowatt hour. For this system to be really effective for me, I have to be home during the day or using energy during the day while the sun is shining and my system is generating. Otherwise, I basically lose it because I'm only earning a lousy 8 cents per kilowatt hour if I export it and don't use it. Now, a gross metering system is different in that you export all of the power that you generate to the grid. You don't have the ability to use it, well, at least metering wise, you don't have the ability to use it locally and consume it while you're home during the day. So you will be always buying energy from the grid at that 24 cents per kilowatt hour. So in my case, if I was on a gross metering system, it wouldn't make sense because I'd only be getting charged 8 cents per kilowatt hour for everything I exported to the grid. So I wouldn't have the advantage of being able to use that energy during the day. So for a gross metering system to be effective here, I would have to be earning at least the same as what I was taking it from the grid to get a good payback on the thing. So it really depends upon how much you're getting for feeding back, i.e. the solar tariff for feeding your energy back into the grid, and your usage scenario. Are you home during the day? So it's not a clear-cut case of, one's better than the other. It depends on your circumstances. Now, unfortunately, I missed the boat on my system because quite a few years ago, the New South Wales government were giving massive feed-in tariff rebates to promote the solar energy take-up in the solar industry and that sort of stuff. And they were giving you 60 cents per kilowatt hour gross. And that was unbelievably generous. In fact, it was too generous that so many people took it up here in New South Wales that they had to stop the scheme because so many people rushed in, because your payback period would be like a year or two or something. It was crazy. So unfortunately now it's dropped down to 8 cents per kilowatt hour and net metering. Well. As I mentioned, I've been logging the output of this thing since I installed it, and I use a website called pvoutput.org, and I'll link it in down below. All this data is public, so basically every day I capture the data with my Sunny Boy inverter, it stores it inside, and then I use a program called PV Bean Counter to automatically extract that via the Bluetooth Sunny Boy interface and then upload it to the pvoutput.org website. And this is all my basically daily output here, but I can go to monthly, for example, and you can see it changing over the seasons. This is when I installed it from July 2013, of course, which is winter here in Australia. Everything's upside down here. And it peaks in about December there, which is the middle of our summer, and then it goes down and didn't quite reach the same heights. But unfortunately, the data for December 2014 and January this year are incomplete. I've captured the data. I've got them in the CSV files, but unfortunately, I've been having a bit of an issue with my program for the last month or two. So I'll eventually be able to upload that data. You can see that's only partial month, 15 days and like 2 days in February and 15 days only in December. But anyway, you can see the changing trends through the season. Now, if we go back to the daily data here, I've not only got the maximum output, you can see how much I've generated in this column here per day, and also the efficiency, and I can actually compare these with other similar ones in my area. For example, here's my one, and it's a 3 kilowatt system. By the way, I am tilting it roughly 15 degrees, roughly northwest-ish or thereabouts. And my efficiency, for example, 3.75 watt hours per kilowatt. That's got nothing to do with the size of my array. It's basically how efficient my particular installation is relative to my nominal 3 kilowatt output figure. So, this number can either be fudged by saying, oh yeah, my system's 4 kilowatts when it's actually 3, or if you've got manufacturers who don't rate their panels properly and things like that, that can all cause discrepancy. But of course, it's going to change with the solar insolation as well, which is the amount of solar energy hitting the earth per square meter, basically, and that does change. It's not going to be, December 30th one year is not going to be the same output as December 30th the next year, even though it's completely cloudless. The solar insolation actually varies a lot day to day, and we'll be able to probably see that in a second. So I'm doing relatively well on my relative efficiency there. So if we go to my outputs here, the daily ones, for example, look, this looks like one of my best days here. I generated 19.3 kilowatt hours. Let's have a squiz at that, and this is my output time. You can see it starts ramping up at about 5:40 p.m. The sun's just poking up. There's a little bit of a dip there, so I don't know what happened. Maybe a cloud passed by or something like that. A few little ripples up here, but it basically goes very nicely. I do sometimes get a fairly sharp drop off at the end because I've got like a house next door which right at the extreme end of the day, depending on the season, will start to shadow my solar panels. So maybe we can see that a bit better on another one. But let's choose another day that was very similar. Look, this one was 19.2 kilowatt hours. But look at this. Look at all these huge dips in here. Obviously, we had some huge cloud cover coming over. So instead of like 2.5 kilowatts here, it drops down to under 1,000 watts. So, but that day generated as much power as the other day. So obviously, even with these huge dips in there, so obviously this is to do with the solar insolation figure, the amount of radiation the sun happens to be outputting that particular day. And if you're keen to know about solar insolation, then, well, go check it out. There's tons of info out there for reading. It's not a very often known field, but it's also known as solar irradiation as well. And it varies daily with the output of the sun and all sorts of factors. And it's measured by an instrument called a pyranometer. And here's a couple of pictures of these things. And some people actually have them installed on their solar systems like this so that they can log the solar insolation data as well, like during the days. Unfortunately, pyranometers are very expensive instruments, generally, like, in the $1,000+ range or something like that. So they're not very cheap to install. But anyway, you can actually get the data from various government agencies in various countries. Here in Australia, it's the BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology, and they've got, it looks like you used to be able to get this data back when I worked on my solar air heater, my solar sponge, which I'll link in down below. It's a very old project which I don't have anymore, but I experimented with solar air heaters, and I used to get the live daily data from that. But I think you have to subscribe now. It's free to get the data. But anyway, there's several sources. You can see this map here of Australia just showing the change in solar insolation figure, but that will change daily, as I said. Not just daily, hourly, minute by minute. Even if you've got a perfectly clear sky and the sun's in exactly the same spot, the output can change depending on what the sun is doing and other factors. So it's quite a complicated field. So solar insolation is expressed in watts per square meter, and your solar panels here, here's my LG Mono X panel. It's not the exact one. I've got a 250 watt one. Anyway, it's still exactly the same. The standard test conditions are for a solar insolation or a solar irradiance of 1,000 watts per square meter. So when you buy like a 250 watt panel, it's assuming that it's 1,000 watts per square meter, and it's correct, the correct tilt and everything else to give you your nominal 250 watts output at a certain load, etc., etc. Then you have to get into the load curves and all sorts of things, and specifying the output of solar systems can get really complex really quickly if you take everything into account. So as I speak, it's just after 10 a.m. here in Sydney, and here's my live output data that's been updated from home. I left my machine on there, so it does update live. Otherwise, it just waits until the end of the day when I next turn on my computer and downloads all the data, because the Sunny Boy inverter can keep full daily data for up to 2 weeks. So as long as I upload it within 2 weeks, it should all still be there. And I can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things with pvoutput.org. I can analyze my data and I can download it. And if I had the hardware, I could also log the temperature each 5 minutes, and I could also log my voltage, my mains voltage as well, or the output of my solar panels, and energy used and power used, for example. But I don't have any energy meters hooked up that I can actually export data on and tie it into the whole system. That's more complex. I never bothered with that, but at least I've got my solar data, and allows me to do lots of fantastic stuff. Here's my weekly chart, and just allows me to follow things really quite nicely and how it's tracking, and all the data's there. And if you want to see one of my worst days, well, it was a couple of days ago. It was pretty horrible here. It was dark, stormy, overcast, like end of the world type stuff all day. And it sort of peaked at about 800 watts there. Maybe the sun shined for 2 seconds. I don't know. But it was a really horrible day. And it got, right down at one point. It got down to, outputting 72 watts from my 3 kilowatt system a couple of times. Look at that. Pretty horrible stuff. But even that day there generated 3.5 kilowatt hours. So, that's on a horrible day. That's still pretty good. That's probably still the energy I use, sort of like 1/3 of the energy I use for the whole day. So that's pretty much all of my daily energy. Even on a really horrible day, my 3 kilowatt system generates enough power for me to use. So here's what everyone wants to know. How much power and money have I saved by installing this 3 kilowatt solar power system on my roof? Well, here is 3 shots of my before and after bills, basically. So the top one there, from July to September 2013, when I have the new solar power system, to my bill in the previous year, July to September 2012, you can see it's dropped from 19.1 kilowatt hours on average for daily usage down to 12.87. So that's a decrease of almost 33% in my grid usage. Awesome. And you can see the other time periods there from October to December and April to June as well. Once again, both when I have the solar system and when I don't. And of course, there's different daily usage figures there because we're changing the seasons. Of course, you use more or less power, summer or winter. But look, the total average there is just over 33% I've reduced in my grid power usage. So there you go. I've automatically reduced my bill by 33% right there. So that's pretty much exactly what I expected to get, because we're not using most of our power during the day when the sun is shining, when we can make use of the energy from the solar panels. We're using it at night when we have to draw it back from the grid. So we're using about 2/3 at night and 1/3 during the day. But because the power we use during the day is being supplied by the solar panels, bingo, we've got around about a 1/3 reduction. Of course, this might be significantly different for different people who have different usage scenarios. If you use a lot of power during the day when the sun's shining, then you can get a much greater return than this. So that grid power saving, of course, translates directly into a kilowatt hour energy saving per day. And I've got the exact same 3 quarters worth of bill data there, and I've just subtracted the difference in the kilowatt hours per day. And the average figure comes out to 5.26 kilowatt hours, and we can use that in a minute to calculate our total saving and total payback for this system. And if you're curious to actually see my bill, well, here it is, and what I'm actually charged. You can see here the charge rate in cents per kilowatt hour is 22.71 cents. Now, this has just recently dropped, like in the last year, because we used to have a carbon tax here, which the current government bloody well scrap. So our rate did drop, but then artificially went up before that. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's my current rate, but I also pay extra 2.8 cents per kilowatt hour here to get 100% audited and accredited green power. My one actually comes from wind farms just up the coast somewhere. I forget exactly where, but anyway, there we go. My total usage for the last quarter, 725 kilowatt hours for 85 days. And you can see down here that it cost me a total. Of course, there's a service charge as well, whereas that supply charge, there we go. So I'm getting charged $60 a quarter for the supply charge. I'm not sure what the controlled load is, an extra $4. Oh God, they whack on everything they can everywhere. But anyway, it's $274 a quarter, and that's not much at all. I know somebody else in my street who pays well over $1,000 a quarter for their electricity. Oops. Yeah, they're doing something horribly wrong, like leaving their totally ducted aircon system on 24/7, most likely. Anyway, here is where I get my payback. Here we go, the solar contribution. Here we go, for the 85 days, I generated 858 kilowatt hours. And of course, I get paid a lousy 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So roughly 1/4 of what I have to buy it for from the grid. That's what I'm being paid to feed back into the grid. It's a bloody rip-off. It really is. Anyway, so there you go. I got $51 for the last quarter. It doesn't sound like much, but when you count in the 1/3 drop that we looked at before, plus this payback, well, let's look at the total figure. I don't know what it is yet. Haven't added it up. Let's do that. Oh, and just to be clear, that 858 kilowatt hours that they've read here, you remember this is a net metering system. So this is what was read on those 2 meters. You can see the difference in the figure there, which they read from one to the other. That is just the energy I've exported to the grid. That's not the energy I generated with the solar panels, because you remember I used 1/3 of it. So it would have just add an extra 1/3 on top of that, and that's what I would have generated roughly. And of course, if I was home during the day and was able to use all that energy from the solar panels, well, I wouldn't have anything on here. I'd be exporting nothing to the grid at all, in theory, if I used it all. But of course I want to use it all because I'm only getting paid that lousy 6 cents to feed it back into the grid, and I've got to buy it at 25.5 cents total. So it's better to use it than to feed it back in my particular case. But if you live in an area where you're getting like a 1-to-1 feedback tariff ratio, so you can sell it back to the grid at that 25 cents or whatever it is, then hey, it's better to have a bigger system like that. But for my purposes, it's actually kind of detrimental to have a larger solar system. If I put a 10 kilowatt system in there, I'd probably never get the payback because I'd never be able to use all the energy. So I'd only be getting a lousy 6 cents per kilowatt hour for feeding it back. And as you see, it's only $50 a quarter. It's bugger all. So summing up, what everyone wants to know, was it worth doing this financially? Well, let's take a quick look at the numbers. I averaged a saving, start from the top here up in the green, I averaged a saving of $489 a year based on just that energy saving because I was using 1/3 of my energy during the day from the solar panels. That will vary from person to person, but there you go. It's almost $500 a year there. Then in the blue there, we've got the average solar contribution payback, i.e. the energy I didn't use during the day, I exported back to the grid. That's $185 a year because I'm getting a very low feed-in tariff rate of 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Could be as much as 8 cents per kilowatt hour if I went to another supplier, but let's not go there. There's arguments both ways. That's $185 a year. So there you go. My total saving per year is $674, and there's been no maintenance so far after almost 2 years installed, but I've got a 25-year warranty on the top-of-the-line LG panels, plus I've got a 10-year warranty on the inverter and the installation as well. So during the payback period, it's basically all covered. There should be no extra fees at all. So to install my 3 kilowatt system cost me around about $5,000. Now, I deliberately chose a very expensive system with top-of-the-line LG Mono-X panels plus the Sunny Boy inverter. You can actually get 3 kilowatt systems for as little as $3,000 here, but I deliberately paid more. I wanted better quality components that would last a long, long time, so I deliberately paid extra. But anyway, the payback period is that $5,000 divided by the $674 a year that I'm saving, and these are measured figures. These aren't calculated. They're basically pretty much average measured figures that I've got. So the payback period is 7.4 years. Not terrific, but considering that I'm in a state which pays a lousy 6 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour, I think I'm doing pretty darn good to get a payback in 7.4 years. Now, if you bought the cheaper 3 kilowatt system, you can get it for as little as $3,000, or if you bought a smaller system, I don't need a 3 kilowatt system. So as you can see, most of my savings were actually made up in the green there, were made in actually saving energy during the day, not for the payback period. So anyway, it could have got away with a smaller system because I get that low feed-in tariff. But assuming you paid $3,000 for a system, that's only 4.5 years payback. And that's pretty darn good considering that I live in, once again, a crap state that pays you nothing. If you lived in one of those good states or a good country where they pay you at least the same rate you buy it from, then your payback period can be as little as a couple of years. And as I said, New South Wales used to have a 60-cent feed-in tariff. So it was absolutely crazy. It was more than 3 times what you would actually buy the energy at. And the payback period was like less than 12 months. It was crazy. So there's actually no telling what that tariff is going to do in the future. I don't think it's ever going to go down. I think it's only ever going to go up. A new government gets in, they could actually, change their mind and bump it back up again. That's my hope anyway. And in a couple of years' time, I might have myself an electric car, a fully electric car, and I've got the lifestyle. I live close to home, so I'll be able to even charge it during the day and make use of that excess solar that I'm not actually using. So that'll be fantastic. And for those who aren't aware, Australia actually has quite a large percentage of homes adopting solar power. Once again, because of that scheme that the government put in quite a few years back. I think last time I checked, we had about 12% of the homes in the entire country with solar panels on their roof. It's very common around my area. My street, for example, has I think it's about 90% of the homes have solar panels, so extremely popular. But anyway, there you go. It has been very well worthwhile. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's been a bit of a lengthy video, longer than I expected, but I covered quite a few things. So there you go. If you want to discuss it, jump on over to the EEV blog forum. I'll leave YouTube comments down below or comments on the blog website. And if you like the video, please give it a big thumbs up on YouTube. Thanks. Catch you next time.